Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well on this terrific Tuesday. It's video 3. Video 3 of 3. Either that or it will be 2 of 3, and the one that was going to be 2 of 3 will be 3 of 3. But there's 3 videos today. Just bear that in mind, so keep your eyes peeled. And if you haven't seen any yet, the chances are you've missed some, because this definitely won't be video 1. But anyway, so I get straight into it, because we're talking about the hit and run outside Bryan Kohberger's apartments the night of the 1122 King Road tragedy. I did a video about a month and a bit ago touching on this incident, but since then other people have covered it. Drip Drop did a video a few days ago, and as usual he was fantastic in the way that he was able to bring some direct footage from there, including some interviews with, I believe the girl's name was Carmen. But look, what do we learn from it? What do we actually learn? What is the takeaway from this hit and run on the night of this incident? Because there's some things that have relevancy and there's some things that don't. I think one important thing to establish is the fact that this incident was a long incident. It weren't something that happened over the course of a few minutes. This went way into the night, into the early hours of the morning, and was quite a hustle and bustle in the area right outside Bryan Kohberger's apartments. So would that have played into the mentality of somebody who was going to do an atrocity? Bearing in mind, it would mean that they would have to not only leave and go via all of this and likely be caught on dash cams, the cameras that the law enforcement officers themselves wear. You know, it adds another layer of difficulty to this situation. And if it was Bryan Kohberger, it would mean that he was risking leaving there and being stopped. They could have literally just stopped him out of curiosity to see whether he witnessed something. So what does that tell you? It tells you that Bryan Kohberger, very highly unlikely, prepped his car. Remember, no DNA whatsoever found in Bryan Kohberger's car, and some people would turn around and they'd say, yeah, but he could have shrunk wrapped the whole interior. He could have put plastic on everything, the seats, the floor, the pedals, the stair, everything, and him himself could have been wearing a Jason Voorhees outfit, and that would have done the job. But again, you need to think whether he would have then, with all of this done, risked driving past all of these officers when we know that they do love pulling people over. And then you've got to explain why you look like the entire crime con event inside your car. But anyway, that's by and by. Let's swiftly move on. So next, we look at the way in which law enforcement handles this young girl, who clearly doesn't really know what the hell is going on. But from what I can ascertain, from looking at it, it would appear that someone took her keys, drove a car and smashed her car up. And from looking at that, I would ascertain that was likely her sister who did it. But look, the point being, this is someone who law enforcement are interviewing her with one specific goal, one specific mentality, and that is that you're guilty, and we're going to ignore every other piece of information that you give, but only try to establish you being the guilty party, and how we can manipulate anything that you say, you don't say, and use it against you, which they do. Now, she is consistently saying that she didn't do it. She's consistently requesting a parent to be present. She is she even at one point asked whether she could have a sobriety test. And again, all of these things are ignored. They showed no respect for how she felt and the confusion she felt whatsoever. It was literally one goal, and that was, she did it, let's get her wound up, sewed up, and sent down the river, which is pretty much what happened. And with respect to the Bryan Kohberger situation, you can kind of feel that that's perhaps how this went as well. You know, Bryan Kohberger, and when we talk about frame jobs and we talk about plant and knife sheaths and things like that, you know, some people have watched too many films with respect of what they feel that you're saying when you say that. Now, I'm not saying that, say, law enforcement done this crime, for instance, and that's something that we're going to touch on in a later video. But for now, what we're talking about is it ain't about law enforcement doing a crime and then fitting someone else up for it. This is about law enforcement being focused on one person and not willing to look at anything else. And it becomes this... We talk about it a lot, don't we, this confirmation bias, but what does that look like in the real world rather than just written down on paper? That looks at a law enforcement officer or a team of law enforcement officers who have an atrocity committed. They have a huge crime. They've got the University of Idaho breathing down their neck because it's impacting them. You've got families breathing down your neck because that's impacting them and they want to know. You're feeling the pressure. This isn't something that you deal with every day. And you've got somebody who seemingly fits the picture. They drive a car that you believe is similar to what was sort of stated by the FBI specialist that they saw. So you've got that. So you kind of... It overlaps. It doesn't match, but it overlaps, so that'll do. Right, so we've got this. Then you've got a situation where you've got a bloke who was driving around the area and his phone wasn't connected to a phone tower. So all of a sudden you've got... He drives that car. You've got this guy who was relatively in this area and he has no alibi. So when we say about fitting someone up, sometimes it gets to the point where you need something to just tip it over the edge and push it onto your side. And sometimes that's what leads police officers to plant some evidence. They may feel that they have done every single thing in their power, and they are absolutely right, but their professional knowledge leads them to believe that what they've got, they know what the overlaps are. They know that nothing really matches, and it's just a case of, at some point, this is likely to all come to a head. The defence, depending on how good they are, they're going to start pulling this apart, and we need an ace in the hole. We need something that's going to poison everything and make everything focus on that one thing, and I believe that's where the knife sheath comes in. But like I say, with respect to this hit and run incident, that was just an insight into how law enforcement operates. It doesn't matter who people are, what they are, what the deal is and what's going on. They have one mentality, and that is to find out who did a crime and get a result as quickly as possible. And I believe that the vast majority of them almost go down this Occam's razor situation where, they see something, that's what it is, and they don't want to do the investigative work. They've got something that looks the most obvious, so they're just going to latch onto that. And is that in the Idaho 4 case where it all went wrong? Who knows? And don't forget, this hit and run as well, Bryan Kohberger would have had to have driven back through it all. So that's twice. So to leave, to come back, driving through all of that with all of his car shrink wrapped, and now he's either in his car naked where he's took his stuff off, or them clothing or whatever is somewhere in there, potentially a weapon, who knows. But certainly there'll be, who knows? You let me know what you think, and I'll catch you all in the next one.